If you are a student looking to become a financial advisor or an advisor in the first 10 years of your career, you're in the right place. My name is Colin Overweg, and I am the FPA of Michigan Next Gen Community Leader. The goal of our Next Gen program is to help you become a better advisor and make friends along the way. In our last meetup, there was a ton of fantastic conversations led by our special guest, Doug Boneparth. Doug is the founder of Bone Fide Wealth. He has been cited in multiple publications such as the New York Times, CNBC, the Wall Street Journal. He's the co-author of the Millennial Money Fix book, has been recognized by Investment News 40 Under 40, and has twice been recognized by Forbes as a next generation advisor. He's also been recognized by Investopedia as a top 100 advisor in the country and has built an incredible following along the way. In this conversation, we dive into how Doug got started, of course, social media, and how he's able to find so many new clients, whether or not you should consider creating content, how he started his own financial planning practice and things he wish he knew before he got started, and whether or not it would make sense to you and whether he'd do it over again. If you're looking to get involved with our next meetup and conversations like this, give me a follow on LinkedIn or Twitter or virtually any social media, and I am always posting about our next event. We usually meet about every other month. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the conversation. Last time I think we spoke may have been in Huntington Beach, so it's been a little bit.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think so.
surviving the winter?
Yeah, I took this call outside in like my town's downtown because this is the first really nice day we've had. It was like 72 today, and it was pretty much like, in the 40s and 50s, not too long ago. So, hope you guys don't mind. I'm sitting outside taking this call, watching people walk by. I also was racing to get home from the city where I dumped my wife and made my way home. And I felt like I couldn't go to my house because my kids are there. It's not making it sound like a bad dad, but like there's no way I could have gone from the car to see them onto this thing. Anyway, it's awesome to be here. I'm actually super, super excited. This has been the part of my day I've been looking forward to the most.
Hey, we're really, really excited and honored to have you here. This is the Financial Planning Association Next Gen community for the state of Michigan. Although we have expanded our touch kind of across the country, as I even ran the program for 3 years from California. And now I'm back in Michigan. We're just having a blast here. So we're really, really excited. Thanks again for coming here. So, as a quick introduction here, for those who don't know Doug, you're in for a treat here. Doug is the founder of Bonafide Wealth, which is a wealth management company specialized in serving millennials, young professionals, talking about everything from student loan debt and finding creative ways to lead launch businesses, brands, side hustles, and build wealth to accomplish your goals. Went to Florida University, master's in business from NYU Stern Business School, is the co-author of Millennial Money Fix, so is also an author, is a contributor to CNBC Digital Financial Advisor Council, has been named a top most influential advisor from 2018 to 20, actually probably going to be 2024, but at least through 2023 for the last 5 years, an Investopedia Top 100 advisor, and has been named an Investment News 40 Under 40. Doug, thank you so much for joining us today. First off, want
So,
to start
so
out.
excited to be here.
When I was talking about you here, I actually shared my screen because it's like, how do I describe Doug other than this awesome bio and building this company, being an author? You're like a D-list celebrity in a full-on celebrity in the
Yes.
financial community. And I was sharing your Twitter feed, just the top few comments here, and being a part-time comedian here, how do you take such a serious topic that people stress about money and just make it look so easy to just have fun? I feel like you can just immediately take down the wall of we're not supposed to talk about this stuff, making people feel comfortable. How did you learn that? Is that a natural gift? How can advisors here today, students kind of learn a little bit from what you've kind of uncovered there?
Yeah. So first of all, I want you guys to know it's again awesome to be here. I want you guys to know that I would have absolutely killed for a forum like this, when I was starting out. And you got Colin here, who's fantastic. Um, the fact that this exists right here is so cool. You guys are very lucky. And stay in this community and continue to build your community because it's very important. And I wish I had that kind of support when I was starting out. Anyways, I think like everyone has something that they're very good at, and um, part of my life has always been like wit and humor. Um, I'm like, as far as my personality goes, I'm definitely trying to make you laugh as much as humanly possible all the time, and I feel that truthfully, it's my coping mechanism with like just how crazy life can be. So I'm very lucky to have adopted like humor as my like way of navigating through life, and I'm just was able to take a platform like X or Twitter now and figure out how to merge these two things together, like being very social in general and like your social media. It wasn't too hard for me to figure out how to navigate that a little bit and find where a community existed and apply that thing that is special about you to that community. And essentially that's like the key to building your brand and your success in your advisory practice. Like you're going to find a thing that you're particularly good at, and that's what you're going to focus on and find a community that gravitates towards that. Because at the end of the day, right, we gotta market ourselves, generate and develop new business, and that's probably the path of least resistance for everybody. Is just to focus on, you know, find that thing that they're good at and learn how to exploit that in a business and financial planning or financial advisory setting.
Where do you kind of get that confidence? Because I know at least when I was getting started, I just felt like I had to flex so much on what I know, how smart I
Yeah,
am,
yeah,
etc. And
uh,
when you're just coming in and you're just using such layman's terms and being so relaxed, it can almost come off maybe as unprofessional in some people's opinion.
yeah.
How do you kind of balance that, like, we need to have that sense of professionalism and seriousness, we're talking about my life savings, but still
Yeah.
being able to kinda have that fun and, just
Well,
the humor.
if we really think that like being boring about a very boring topic for most people is gonna like do us any favors, you're kidding yourself, right? Come on, like everybody in this room loves personal finance. I love it. I'll geek out about it. We can do that because we love it. But like, let's step out of our own shoes for a second and realize that like our job is to you know turn this into a way for people to get educated in the way that best works for them. We all develop our style to do that. So for me, like, yeah, I will admit up front before I chose to, use and lean on humor a lot. Like, where do you draw the line, right? Where do you draw the line in terms of stepping over, doing something inappropriate? Funny enough, like when I post, like I almost never curse, but like if you're my friend in real life, you'll notice I curse a lot in like real life. Just and that's not a reason about being like inauthentic or anything like that. But I still believe that if you're out there online, you definitely have some level of professionalism to follow. So you just can't be like an anonymous, account and troll everyone. But yeah, no, I think everyone here knows what's right and knows what's wrong when it comes to like what you should be putting out there, and what topics you probably don't want to cross that could cause reputational damage. Um, Keeping it clean and keeping it professional while also being funny is, sometimes a fine line where, to be thin ice you're walking on there. But I try and figure out how to do that really well because I don't really want to afford like what happens if it does, what if it doesn't work out.
That's awesome, and, uh, do you mind kinda going back a little bit? I know I dove right into the content here, but I had to start there because
Yeah,
it's
go for
such a
it.
fun area. A lot of people in the group today are college students or young advisors, and it's really helpful kinda hearing how you got started, finding a job at the perfect RIA, doing the perfect position, and then scaling through the firm and living your whole career at one place is not the easiest thing to say the least. What was kind of your career? Were you bouncing around? Did you get lucky that way? Did you always know that you wanted to be an advisor?
No, I think one of the more unique things about my situation, everyone's like, oh, okay. So I grew up the son of a financial advisor. Like I had a very early opportunity to involve myself in this profession. Um, when I was a freshman in college, my father was able to, he he made when I got home from my freshman year, he put a Series 7 manual on my bed and was like, "Hey, what do you want to do this summer?" I'm like, "I guess I'm studying this thing over here." So I've had this kind of unfair advantage of getting a really early start in this. Um, I didn't always know that I wanted to do this, but I knew that like sales and putting myself out there was something that I really enjoyed, and this looked like a really good opportunity to like turn this into a career. So, um, it's a really long story about how I got from Florida to New York. I didn't really enjoy working with my father, which was kind of one of the reasons. And my sorry for the noise in the background. One of the
You're good.
bad things about.
No, you're fine.
All right,
It's not bad at all.
repeat the question one more time, Colin. I'm sorry for the distraction.
That's okay. So it's I mean, just kind of how you got started. I mean, you were down in Florida working with
Yeah,
dad, it sounds like, and then here you are today running your own practice in New York.
sure.
That doesn't seem like that happens overnight.
No, it doesn't. So guys, like there are only so many paths I think in which you can like really get like into this business. And like um they're all great ways to do it. You have the ability to like work for firms where their sales goals, I think, has always been, the path of least resistance to get in. And I don't think that's really long term the best solution for most people. Like that's never something that really I viewed as a long term solution. I think it's very difficult to do that. Um, Working for an RIA or an independent broker dealer is like the next thing, and like trying to crack into that. So this is for like the college kids that are like trying to get into the profession. Um, Going through the independent broker dealer route probably gives you the best opportunity to like find yourself working for a team and a firm. All of these are great ways to get trained up if you're interested in starting your own thing, which is the third option. But that's really tough to do. For me, I spent 10 years working in broker dealers and working for a few other advisors after working with my father um, to pretty much get the experience I needed. Starting out in your 20s and even early 20s and mid 20s is very tough to do in terms of like actually develop relationships and develop business. So
Yeah.
you're going to need a lot of time to kind of train yourself up, get your CFP done, and you just got to kind of navigate which forum is going to allow you to do that the best, right? And as I mentioned, you can always go, then there's big banks and wirehouses, which can be part of their programs, which, are again, either down that sales role or, come into a team and make a long-term bet out of it. And what's great about today is there's so many other avenues in which someone said they were doing coaching here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's also the ability to coach. For me though, I was able to eventually take the experience and build a book of business inside of the practices I was working for. And I decided to go to business school, and that's where I had to figure out, all right, how was I actually going to grow financial advisory practice? Um, and how are we going to ultimately develop business? So I think for anyone looking to get into this and grow their own business, this is what it's really all about. And like I said, like everyone has that like special thing they got to figure out how to do. For me, it was really working in media. Like uh, I found a way to put myself out there and develop a network of reporters and producers, editors, and writers in the financial media, and kind of pitch them this idea that the financial planning needs for millennials. So that was the angle that I took at a time when, I guess 10 years ago, that's all you would hear in the press, and usually something negative towards
Right.
millennials. So I was able to take all this experience over like a 10-year period of time, learning how to write financial plans, you know, operate a practice, do the administration, pretty much handle everything for an RIA, and develop a book of business out of it myself to ultimately go from that RIA to starting my own firm at Bone Fide Wealth.
Do you think that that's like, because I know there's a lot of ambitious people on the call today. And actually, one of the questions right before you got on was, I know I want to start my own firm. Basically, how do I do that? How
Yeah,
do you feel like, what do you say to someone who is maybe even a college student kind of feeling that way and maybe even navigating the thought of like, you got to be an awesome CFP, number one. You got to know all the paperwork and all the BS behind the scenes. And then, oh yeah, you got to do the compliance. And then, oh yeah, you have to sell and be a great marketer,
Yeah.
run the business, run the website, all those things. Like, I guess, do you think that, like, do you feel that it was a huge advantage to like kind of take those step by step? Because it sounds like you were a great practitioner prior to becoming the
Yeah.
social media person and brand that you are today.
I think at this point that's the thing like a lot of people forget. I've been doing this for like 20 years now, and um,
I thought
the
you were like
time I
30.
took, yeah, right. No, the time I took to learn this business and the profession by pretty much going from the very basic tasks of how a practice works and operates, and also just become old enough. Like no one's really like it's very difficult, when you're 24 or 25 and you're trying to go out there and develop business and sell financial plans and offer investment management to who. Who are you going to do that to? It's hard to put yourself out there and get credibility around your name as well. So I was able to use my skills as an administrator and an operator of a practice, to buy time, right? So I could run someone else's practice, like soup to nuts, write the financial plans, do the trades, um, handle the client service, system, whatever needed to be done
Yeah.
to get the lead advisor in this case able to focus on the client service and client and business development side of things. And I was able to do that and, earn my keep and afford to live in New York City from being, able to operate that practice. But the whole time you're focusing on, all right, how are you going to build that business of your own? So like for me, it was building a business inside of other people's practices. And my hope was like my plan A was I hope this works out between like that lead advisor and myself, where like the relationship could turn into partnership.
Yeah.
And that is its own other thing, and it's very difficult to do. But obviously it didn't work out in terms of partnership and ended up starting my own thing. So I had this chance to build a book of business that, I could afford to go out on my own. Like starting your own RIA from it's just a matter of cost, guys. You can register. First of all, you don't need to register unless you get like 5 clients in the state and you start actually doing business here, right? But once you do, it's really just a game of cost. Can you generate enough business to cover the cost of running your own thing? Which is maybe why it could be an advantage to like cut your teeth in any number of ways into the industry, whether that's through, a sales approach, cold calling people, all the way over to being a part of a team at a big bank where, you might have to wait 30 years to get up to, running that team. There's so many ways to enter, but, hopefully sharing a little bit about how I did it. And yeah, so that was all done before like any like Twitter social media stuff was being done. It was really just focusing on how I could build a financial planning practice that could pay the bills and help me start a family and buy a house and like really make a career out of it. The social media stuff we can get into, but that really didn't blow up until the pandemic, which proved to be like an outlet when I was pretty much locked. Everyone knows has their own story, but I was locked in my house with little kids, and you know that's where the free time went.
Okay. Wow. I have a whole new found respect for you. I have a 4-month-old, and being in New York, not being able to go outside. Oh boy. Okay. I can see where maybe some outlet was
Luckily,
required.
yeah, luckily we escaped to the burbs like years before that happened. But yeah, the amount of people like fleeing New York City coming here with little kids was wild. But yeah,
So, talk to us about what the practice looks like today and maybe what it's like making that pivot. I mean, that's a big leap of faith. And then everyone knows, and most financial advisory firms are going after that retiree, right? And you kind of zigged while everyone's zagging here
yeah,
and went for the millennial. I mean, that is we've been told that's unprofitable. You can't serve those folks. They don't have assets. They don't even have needs for planning. What do you say to someone that maybe might
yeah.
say that?
I don't think it's ever a bad idea to invest in the future of like where things are going here. Like for me, it simply was I noticed that like 10 years from where I was in life, those are the types of clients that I would want in my practice. But again, it was a matter of affordability. Like I was working with enough older clients at the time, and was able to build up a book of people that I didn't necessarily, I love them to death that are still clients for sure, but you can imagine, they served me well in terms of helping me invest in what I ultimately wanted to create and the types of clients that I wanted to serve. In the beginning, you take the business you can get because you got to eat. And I think that's one of the big lessons I'm trying to say here. Like, guys, like, how can you figure out a way to generate enough revenue to feed yourself while you playing a very long game? I think that's probably one of the biggest messages here. Like 20 years, guys, I probably wasn't really feeling confident in my ability to develop business until I was into my like late 20s. Like 20, I remember like 28, 9, finally feeling like, into my young 30s, really feeling like I created enough credibility through the media and press I was doing. And like going after these awards that like Colin rattled off in the beginning, like a lot of that was just deliberate because here I am in New York City, like one of a billion advisors, and you got to create some kind of differentiation. So again, going after that like first mover advantage and working with millennials, like someone's going to do this with Gen Z and the generation after that. Like, um, I don't think you can be like financial advisor for millennials now. Like I was one of the first to do that. And, that's been very good as far as, helping me market myself and brand myself. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get across here is like, you can find that thing about you, that thing you do really well. And ultimately you're playing a long game to get to that. It's going to be hard to do it in the very beginning and you'll, get your experience. And, I hate when like, okay, like you pay your dues. Like that's a terrible expression for get experience,
Yeah.
and that's what you need. So yeah, find a way. It's just very difficult. We've made it so difficult in this profession to jump out of school or to start out and like find a stable base salary while you learn. A lot of the banks do that, stuff like that. Like coming out from the gate, from the entrepreneurial path and starting at zero is literally choosing hard mode. But it also offers the best rewards if you can make it out, in the end. So find out where your support systems and crutches are in the beginning of your career so you can develop yourself into, a business developing machine.
That's really, really
And
well
by the way,
said.
real quick, if you there's so, I just want to point out there's like so many things you can do in this profession that aren't developing business. So like if you love financial planning and you love financial services, from operations to running portfolios and just focusing on the money to just doing client service, doing paraplanner roles, like there's a lot of ways to go about this. Colin and I have really just been focusing on talking about it from like the hey, how do you start your, my experience, my path of doing it.
That's such a good point. And honestly, even learning what you don't like is half of the battle, right? Because maybe you don't even know what you do like, but if you find out what you don't like, well, you've started to
Yeah,
narrow it down. So I totally agree with you. I mean, starting out in the entrepreneurial route is just going immediately to hard mode. And I think that's really well
it's
said.
tough.
Yeah, yeah. So if if you want to be a business owner on the call here, I know that's a very popular question. Um, I encourage you to be patient and like Doug is saying, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So let's become awesome advisors and maybe gain some credibility. And Lord willing, we're going to be in this thing for the long haul, and you're probably going to be a better advisor for it, having maybe gotten a few accolades along the way, or at least learned how not to do it, learned the things that you didn't like, etc. Um, Pivoting here, Doug, curious what always a good question, especially for young advisors listening and students. What are some things that you wish that you had known getting into this practice and maybe making that transition to running your own practice or trying to develop your own business and things like that, like clients and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. The sooner I would have known I'm playing a very long game, I think the better any of you are going to do. And having patience and believing in yourself. I wish I knew how lonely it was going to be. Um, not to
Appreciate that.
sound sad about it or anything, but it's true. I think you're going to find yourself doing a lot of this on your own. Your
Yeah.
success is going to come from your efforts here, and you'll be lucky to find a partner. I'm very lucky. My wife now works with me. Our dream was to make this a family business, and we were able to do that. Um, but you'll be lucky to find someone who's going to love it as much as you do and work with you like that when it comes to being, people you're around, your friends, and certainly the people that are going to be working with you and perhaps for you someday. So I wish I knew about the loneliness part. I probably would have built support systems a little bit different. Um, but I'm very fortunate to have, been able to stick with it.
So you're telling the community, stay together.
100%, guys. This is insane. Like that's why when I started out, I said the fact that this exists in the first place is insane to me. Like I worked in a New York. Yeah, I worked with my dad. That sucked for a little while. Just it's great when it does work out. One of the most beautiful things out there, but that didn't work. Um, but you're gonna have friends that get to go to offices and have colleagues, and there's just sometimes not a lot of that. Unless you're working at a big bank or something like that. You're going to be in small groups, if not on your own. So yeah, that part, uh, if you know that ahead of time, you'll do all right.
And that's what this is all about. I mean, we're just trying to get like-minded people bumping
Yep.
into each other. So we've been sharing all of our LinkedIn information here, and I really encourage anyone on the call, if there's someone that is a similar age or trying to do something similar, like reach out and say, hey, do you want to meet every Monday just to vent about how difficult this is? I know I could have used that, and I started out with XY Planning Network, Doug. I know you're familiar with those guys, and they did a really good job of that. So I felt super blessed to have had some of those venting groups. I can't imagine how lonely it must have been for you, and I felt that way having been surrounded by lots of communities.
Yeah, man. Having this at your fingertips is really really just a great thing. Colin, you've done a wonderful job here. We tried to get it going in New York. We did. I was like the next gen director for a hot minute for the entire chapter imploded. True story. They had to like shut it down. Wild, wild stuff. But
Wow.
yeah,
All right, we're
wild,
gonna
wild
hope
stuff.
that doesn't happen here.
No, guys, don't blow up your chapter.
So talking about building a brand, how the heck do you get clients? Like, when did that start? And when is it beneficial, do you think, for people to start creating content? Like, if I'm in college, is that a total waste of my time right now?
Oh no,
Or,
get as much practice making content as possible.
okay,
Find out what content you like to make. I almost think everyone should be writing. Like that's really like the number one way to like show thought leadership is through your writing. Develop a good writing habit. Write for yourself. Don't do it for anyone. But obviously, if you're writing for if you're an audience that's trying to get you clients, it's going to be financial related. But put it out there. Know that, even that most of the stuff you write is probably not going to be great, but that doesn't matter. You got to keep doing it anyways. And, you're really doing it for the top 10 and top 20% of the stuff you do. If you like making videos, just experiment with everything. Experiment with everything. Get on a writing schedule. It's never too early to start any of that. Ultimately, you're going to have to do it if you're doing this to develop business and have your own successful business. And we all know, like, unfortunately, for better or worse, like creating content of some kind as part of like your marketing is important. I chose a media approach. I think like approaching local media as an expert in a certain area. I think everyone sleeps on how easy it is to develop a relationship or how easy it can be to develop a relationship with your local media. If I could do it in New York City, you guys can do it wherever. You can do it anywhere.
yeah.
Learn how to pitch articles to the money writers, editors, get your name in the press, share that credibility around. That's one of the main ways I was able to establish credibility in a very crowded space. So I owe
Could
a
you
lot of it
describe
to
that? Like, could you
yeah.
give us an example? What does that mean? Develop relationships with the media. That just sounds cliche and scary at the same time.
I mean, I'll give you an example. So I had asked my wife's my at the time girlfriend's best friend who was working at a publishing company in New York City. And I figured she would have had access to a list of every reporter, anyone in business media, every reporter, editor, producer, their email addresses. I mean, and she came through. Like I figured it existed. And by the way, you can source this kind of information yourself by going through, your local media. This was New York
Mhm.
City, so I knew there would be a big list of people. So she came through on that, and I remember pitching, a little press kit that I had made up to literally a list that was like 2,000 reporters and media, personnel deep. And what came, and I spammed all of them. And what came out of it was an opportunity to write for like the New York Daily News, to do a column there. A couple of reporters wanted to do some quotes, and I came to them with some ideas as to, either relevant things like millennial financial topics, which seemed to be an interesting angle. And they wanted to, and that's how I got my first lines. And then you're able to take all of that and redistribute that through your social media. So all content has multiple lives. But anyways, that's what I mean by develop relationships with the media. You can find out who your local reporters are. You can find out their email addresses. You know how to use Microsoft Excel. Start building databases of lists that can help you create media, or help you distribute or create media for yourself, or create it yourself. Again, you can create your own and build your own platform. I chose to do both of these things, right? I knew in the beginning, before like I realized I would definitely need to be using social media as a big part of my marketing efforts.
Yeah.
I started with what I knew to do. I studied public relations in college, so that came in handy when it came to learning how to pitch the press and put my thoughts and ideas out there so they would want to speak with me. And I was able to scale that all the way up to doing the work that I do with CNBC. And you just kind of, again, are playing another long game here in this thing. Like these are all things. That's what makes this profession so crazy, is that you have to like be good at so many different things if you're thinking about the entrepreneur, building out the practice thing. And you mentioned earlier on, if that stuff doesn't like sound daunting, the compliance, the actual operations of running a practice as well, layered in on all of that, it's crazy. The amount of gears you shift on a daily basis, let alone throughout the year, it's pretty wild.
Appreciate that. That is absolutely brilliant. When you're reading an article, take notice of who's writing it. They probably have an email, they probably have a website, they probably have a Twitter or a LinkedIn. You can
Yes.
reach out to them. They're human, and they might even pick up the phone for you.
I also think one of the things that could probably help you the most when it comes to building credibility and building an online presence is if you're able to develop those relationships and start creating content and media, you're able to document this. So having your own web page, of course, you don't have one, which I'm sure everyone should, and if you don't, pretty straightforward. I started to catalog the press that I was getting, right? And I
Mm.
still do that to this day, like on our press page. And that, it's just another way to play a different game. And that's going to be, how to win SEO is then something extremely important. I think, depending on where you live, you could have a really great advantage as to making sure that when people are looking for the service that you're providing online, that they find you. There's a whole other game to play around that. So as I'm, collecting media clips and creating content, I'm doing it while keeping how people ultimately search for you, right? Because if you're thinking about getting business and building a funnel for business, you got to have the top end of the funnel there. And for me, that was internet traffic. When I say create content, when I say get media alliance, for the purpose of, why are you doing all of that? You got to be able to showcase it or put it out there in some way that
Yeah.
gets attention, people to come through that. So yeah, just another, another crazy part of this business that you got to be focusing on building. And those are some ways to do it. And I think, attacking your local media, attacking, like going after local media
Yeah.
is a game you can win, and it works. It really does.
I'm sure someone is sitting on the call going, that's easy for you to say, Doug. You're a financial planning expert. I'm in college. What do I know? How can I get started writing content? What do people even want to hear
Yeah.
from me? What would you say to maybe someone who has some of those negative thoughts.
I feel you, man. It's tough because you're putting yourself out there, you know, in all kinds of ways, right? Ultimately, you're gonna have to put yourself out there face to face with someone as you're trying to win business. So you got to be able to also put yourself out there into the void of the internet.
True.
Um,
Thick skin.
it is true. It is true though. It just takes time and it takes practice, and you do it one step at a time. And just remember, everyone starts from zero followers, subs, likes, all of that. Um, there's so many ways to get lost and play games, in the marketing side of this. Um, that truly for me has been my favorite part. Um, and again, I think a lot of it comes back to what you like to do. You don't have to put your faith in the media. You don't have to do social media. You can work your local community. I mean, these very classic ways of you know developing business and relationships. It's right outside your door. Like I chose to do it digitally and in person, and where I was allowed me to do that being in New York. But the internet opens the world to everybody.
I love it. Pivoting to present day, I want to talk about what you're doing from a branding side today and also who you're serving, how you're serving, and where the business is going. So maybe picking and sticking with the branding side. What is the joint account blog? Who's writing this? Who's it designed for? And maybe what's maybe the goal of the new
Yeah.
media and content efforts that you have today?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think like when you become successful at creating something, it'll do wonders for you, and then you'll have to reinvent yourself and come up with something, to stay current, relevant, obviously to continue developing business. This other amazing part of this business is what happens when you get to the goals that you set for yourself, and you ask, then what? Um, so this turned out for the best here, and now, uh, having done millennials early on, or not, I'll be, I'm like knocking 40 this year. We're not 27, I'm not 25 anymore when we started, focusing on millennials. Um, and now we got to figure out what the next iteration is. So we've decided to focus on relationships and money. Being a student of personal finance, there's just not a lot of great stuff out there. There's pretty much nothing out there that helps individuals learn how to talk about money with their significant other. So my wife and I, who first wrote our first book about millennials and money and student loans, and kind of the economic challenges that millennials face back in 2017. Here's 7 8 years later, we're going to dive into helping people figure out how to talk about money, people that they love. It's a very very difficult thing to do. We all have our own identities that we need to explore in terms of our own relationship with money, and typically we don't do a good job of that. We find ourselves, kind of confused, and then we meet someone we love, and we get together with them, and they're just as confused with their own identity with money. And you start mashing these two things together, and it's just a complete mess. So if you think, just helping, people navigate, as a practitioner with money, then you get two people there across the table from you. It's not only, I think, a great skill as a financial advisor, but it's a really great way to help people in their relationships. And there's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of like from your cultural, religious, socioeconomic backgrounds when you have two different people from two different places there. So anyway, we're writing a book about that, and to help kind of prepare people to hopefully make this a successful book, we write a weekly newsletter called the Joint Account. I'll do a lot of Q&As, people asking how to handle certain money situations in their relationship. Heather will do some deep dives. She's a brilliant writer. I write well, but my wife is an extraordinarily talented writer, and I'm very lucky to have her when it comes to writing projects. Um, but she does some amazing writing around helping people with all kinds of uh, power dynamics when it comes to money. So check it out. But for the practice, like this is the next version of the practice for the next 7 to 10 years. Its next growth cycle. You'll become successful in your own practices and businesses to start pondering, well, what happens after you reach those first goals? Like, all right, you crack the code of developing business and you're earning enough income to get your life started and build a career out of this. If you're, you can I guess have to answer the question, how ambitious do you want to be, right? And that's something I find my still ask myself, how far do we want this to go? You can make a nice lifestyle practice for yourself, or you can build an enterprise.
Selfishly, I love the account and I can't wait for the book.
Same,
Having
dude.
kind of gone through a similar path, I mean, having just been married and working with a lot of clients who are married, and you're totally right. We have our own self-identity issues, money scripts, as some advisors
Yep.
and therapists will call it. You put those in a blender with a significant other who you care deeply about, and oh boy, you can have a lot of really interesting outputs.
Yeah, man, that's very, very well said. We want to help people navigate that, and go into the areas that, shape their attitudes and behaviors, with the people that they're that they're with for a very long time, right? And it's such an important topic, guys. We're lucky that we get to, with our clients, improve their lives. When you get to write and create content, even the jokes I write on the memes and all of that. I hope, someone laughed, or someone learned something, or someone improved their financial life. I think the goal overall is to you know, leave this place more financially literate than we found it. It's a really financially illiterate world that we live in. So it's really cool if you're passionate about, making it better and helping individuals, and obviously making a life for yourself out of it too is really cool. One thing, despite not working with them anymore, one thing my my dad had a really good definition of like retirement or financial, no, of being a financial advisor. I'm sorry, is you have the heart of a social worker and the mind of a capitalist. Really cool way to think about, what you do.
So true. And if there's any takeaways here for students and young advisors, this is a really cool profession. It's a really, really cool profession. We're so lucky to be able to do the work that we do. Um, Maybe last
Yeah,
topic
man,
here. Oh, go ahead.
go for it. No, go for it.
I was gonna say, on the joint account here, before we maybe shift over to business side, what do you think is something that, as a young advisor, maybe for myself or a student, kind of thinking about this stuff and trying to learn some skills, what could someone apply maybe, or what are some of the things that an advisor could do to better serve couples in their money? I know that's such a open-ended question, so I apologize for that, but is there maybe one or two takeaways that we could all have to become better advisors?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, one of the secrets has been offering being relatable. The reason I was successful in working with my peers and millennials and able to brand myself and build something around that was because um, we all could relate to one another. I think you think about my generation, what shapes it, we all went through starting our careers in, you know, '08 and '09 in the recession, raising kids in a pandemic, and being shaped in high school by 9/11. These very traumatic experiences provided a lot of relatability. So, whoever it is you're choosing to be passionate around in terms of, who you want to work with, relatability is just such a critical thing to have. So focus on, because, you know, people are going to they're more open to getting financial advice from someone that gets their particular set of circumstances.
Can you double click on that? Is that kind of like Apple when they make their marketing and it's like they don't tell you about the gigabytes and the megahertz and the data. They say 10,000 songs in your pocket. Like people just like they feel that, they understand it. Is that kind of what you're getting into?
I like that analogy. It's really good, Colin. Um, yeah, I think you're trying to create the most approachable way for people to, improve their financial lives, and you know, being able to adapt, or again relate to them, is going to be such a key to your success. And also great client service. Like, never forget that kind of golden rule here of making sure that you're providing value to your client. Um, It's probably the most critical thing. And there are so many great ways to like do like respond. Like for me, like just responding, just being responsive. Like it blows my mind sometimes with how like people don't reply to their client, in a timely manner, like or get back to someone. It's just a great way to put you in the top 50% of performers just by doing that one thing. So when clients ask for something, we want to make sure we can get them an answer. And even if you don't know, like just to say, hey, I don't know, I will find out for you and get back to you as soon as possible. Like such a layup for good service. So I'll throw that in there too. Always provide good service. Always take care of your clients.
All right. And young advisors here, Doug just gave you all the permission to tell your clients you don't know. It's okay. I do
Yeah,
it. Doug does it. It almost builds credibility.
absolutely. Then go help them figure out how to know, or go learn it.
And I actually kind of learned that the hard way too. I thought that when I replied to clients, I wanted to have an extremely thorough reply, and that's what they cared about. And sometimes it would take me 2, 3, 4 days to get the answer. And they would just be so annoyed. And
Mhm.
now, and I've learned that they've expressed it over the years. And what I've learned is like just sending that quick message, like, such a good question, not sure, or even I don't have a moment to get back. Is it okay if I get back to you early next week? It's amazing how communication can just soften that and just make you look like a superhero.
Totally agree. Use it to your advantage.
Okay, so we talked about where you're at today with the brand. We got just like, maybe 10, 15 minutes if I can hang on to you a little long. Uh, where is the business today? I see that there's new faces appearing on your website. Are you guys expanding? I know you kind of touched on it briefly of like, does this become a lifestyle brand? Um,
Yeah.
it's fun just kind of hearing you talk through it, even if people aren't trying to run and own their own business, but just kind of through the lens of an advisor thinking that way.
Yeah, the firm's changed a lot in just the last 3 years. We hired, so when I left my former partner's practice and started Bonafide Wealth 8 years ago, um, I took one staff with me, who's our vice president, Marie. She's been with me since day one and, you know, can handle anything operations, administration. We got to the point where we grew the thing to needing to hire more help. Also, one of the things is we were starting families, and it gets real personal. When you're running a small business. I had 2 kids. Her and her husband started a family of their own, and you're just trying at that point now managing people. Figuring out how to support people and make sure that they have all that they need to succeed in life as well. But we realized we grew the thing, to the point of needing more help, which allowed my associate Cliff to come in out of college, managed to get a CFP in I think less than 2 years, which is super impressive. Um, I tried to teach him and continue to teach him everything I possibly know about this business, and he's absolutely killing it. And then after the pandemic, interesting story. My wife, a corporate attorney of 13 years, um, they wanted her back in the city 4 or 5 days a week, and our dream was always to work together. And she's helped me build Bonafide Wealth. She's known me, for 20 years and has been there for every day of this. So, kind of in the background has been Heather being a full-time mom, lawyer, and co-pilot of the firm. So working 3 jobs, it's just absolutely insane and crazy when you think about it. It just made all the sense in the world at that moment to be like, okay, our girls are getting bigger, being home, from the pandemic, and realizing like that's probably the silver lining here is that. But um, yeah, the practice has changed a lot just in the last few years. Now, as far as going beyond that, I was just talking with Heather about this today. I don't think this year, maybe next year with the book coming out, we'll have to think about how we, add more staff and potentially more advisors to the firm as well. Um, I'm not sure I want this to be, scaled up to a billion or, a couple $1 billion firm where you have, a dozen to 2 dozen plus advisors. That's, I have friends who've done that. It's, there's a sacrifice for doing that, but to also call it a lifestyle practice, I don't know, maybe like lifestyle practice plus, like maybe like a little mini enterprise that, it doesn't necessarily have. I always enjoyed building something that was scalable. I'm always kind of like too much bulk could really take you away from, enjoying some things in your life. I think probably like one of the most millennial things I can say is like finding balance between work and life is important. And I do imbue those values how I build the firm. Like if you're, I couldn't imagine anyone not getting to participate in their kids' lives and making sure that they can do, sure, I guess I could work 90 hours a week every week for the next 5 years and hire advisors and scale this thing. And I guess I wouldn't see my kids, whatsoever. And that's just not something, want to do. And there's also what kind of investment you want to make in it. But I'm excited to see where focusing on couples and using a book once again as a platform builder. I think that's probably going to create more business coming in the door, which will require more staff and more assistance with handling this. So the future looks pretty bright. I think there are probably growth opportunities over the next couple of years. Really got to see where this book goes. I got to figure out how to morph what I've built in terms of our marketing efforts now into a brand and identity around relationships and money. I don't think that's an easy task. We started out as millennials, went into, if we're talking online presence into, comedy, my biggest audience is on X. So how do we go from shit posting and creating memes into, some more serious stuff where we once were before? If I can go, if I can get there once before, I can do it again. So we have our work cut out for us. I don't think we've worked this hard. Life's absolutely overwhelming in all the good ways. But don't forget that part too. I mean, while you're talking about building, practices and businesses, you're building a life for yourself and you're building a family as well. You're going to get pulled in a million different wonderful directions, and oh man, the stress is it's absolutely crazy, and we're lucky to be able to do this, but it took a lot of time to get here. I think it's not easy to go from graduating school and being in your 20s to being into your 30s and being persistent, sticking with this. There's a joke in the profession. What do you call mid 40 something year old financial advisor? A millionaire, because it means they like made it through so much to get there. I never liked that book, but anyway, someone told me.
Oh, that's good. I really appreciate you touching on that and just kind of revealing, being a little more vulnerable on that side. And it's true. Like, I often will like look at like my entrepreneurial heroes, and I heard this really good quote or maybe perspective of like, if you really value Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or any of these folks who have done great
Yeah,
entrepreneurial things, you can't just pick out the piece that you like. You have to take the whole person. And it's like, would you really want to be Steve Jobs, who maybe wasn't overly loved by his family and wasn't overly present? Or, Elon Musk, who has had multiple partners and relationships and doesn't necessarily seem like the happiest
I think he's got
human.
like 59 kids or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, would you want that life? Like,
Probably
I,
not.
I
Probably
don't.
not, guys. Yeah, probably not. I think we're all trying to figure out what we want for ourselves and answer the question, what's enough? Um, I haven't and we're doing that for our clients as well.
So
Um,
true.
Help them figure out what's enough and what their goals are. When you're building something and building this practice, it's very easy to move the goalposts. I mean, I remember a point where I was like, if I can just get to this, I can just get to 30 million in assets by the time I'm 30, I'll be on my way. And like whatever that, and it was arbitrary. It just sounded good, and just
Yeah.
you know, and it was audacious, and I figured, all right, I have no idea, no idea how I'm gonna get there, but we gotta figure that out, and to figure it out and do it, and then guess what? You get there and you're just like, all right, it needs to be 100. We gotta move. We're just gonna play this game
Move the
over and over
goalpost.
and over again. Yeah, and look, life's gonna come in. You're gonna have potentially start a family and have obligations. Your free time's going to go down, and it's cool. That's part of life. And I think one of the cool things about financial planning and wealth management is it mirrors life. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lost track of the amount of babies that have been born in the practice. I mean, I seriously
So
don't know the
cool.
number anymore. I don't. remember how many like homes have been bought or sold, businesses have been bought or sold. Like really cool, you know, part of this. And there's, get to share in the joys of people's success and also be there for, pretty sad and sometimes lonely moments as well. Super cool part of the job. I'm not sure, a lot of professions get to do that. Lawyers and accountants definitely don't get to do that. Probably people's doctors are the closest to like getting to do that.
But we're not on call.
No, we're not. You can work 9 to 5
Yeah.
straight.
Okay, we have a couple questions here, Doug, and then we'll let you go. Anna Maria, do you want to hop off? Oh, sorry, I actually said Cole go first. So Cole, do you want to hop off mute and ask a question?
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, what's up, Cole?
Perfect, Doug. Hey, I just want to thank you for your time. We really appreciate it here. I
Yeah,
have been following your Twitter for a few years now. I love it. I mean, even
yeah,
this morning I woke up, surfed the web and I saw your tweet about being hired. I got a good giggle out of that. So I'm always
thanks.
checking your Twitter. It's amazing.
Appreciate it.
So earlier you mentioned someone coming out of college. I believe you said his name was Clifford, and
Yeah.
get the CFP. So you seem like someone who'd be a great mentor. Do you have any advice for people in college our age who are looking for mentors and possibly how to figure out if these mentors, if they have red flags or how to find good mentors?
Yeah, that's really a great question. Um, I guess being able to identify, an advisor that you'd want to be your mentor is the first thing. There's obviously a wonderful community on both LinkedIn and financial Twitter or financial X, whatever we're calling it now. I think, you can tap into the advisor networks that exist there and do some research, figure out where they are. And if you find who they are, I think, uh, most advisors are very open and welcoming to, spending 30 minutes. Like I don't think I've ever said no to someone wanting to take some of my time to talk about, coming up in the business. I think advisors that are successful, um, and can afford to give you their time will do so. It's probably one of the coolest parts of the job.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no
Thanks for
worries.
joining. Anna Maria, did you want to hop off mute?
Sure. So I joined that. Thank you for your time. I know you mentioned that you would have done something differently about building your support network. So what do you think you would have done differently? What
I would
did
have
you?
found a group like, yeah, self-serving here, but I would have found a group like this. And if I couldn't find a group like this, I would have started my own. So truly, this is a big difference maker. And what I was referring to, like if I knew early in my career, I could find people going through the same stuff that I was going through, or I could, you guys are local, you can even go get like a drink together or go do something, which is insane to me. Um, you know, I think it's such an awesome part. That's something I wish I had. Um, it wasn't really until I guess business school that I was able to, I'm not saying everyone should go get their MBA and go to business school strictly for the network, but like I did, and it was worth every penny to me. I feel like it gave me everything. I was looking for a network in a big place. I was looking for credibility. I was looking for student loan debt. Got that too. I'm just kidding. Oh, worst part of it. Um, so I was very lucky in that network. But as far as the network I was referring to was like the network within like financial planning. Like there was no one. There was just Doug. And also what made it worse is like I knew a lot. Like I came to New York with like 3 or 4 years of learning how to operate a practice. Like I was ready to go. Unfortunately the economy imploded and made life miserable for everyone for like 2 to 4 years. But we got low interest rates out of it, and that was fun.
That was fun. What's going to happen with interest rates?
Well, we're expecting a cut in June. That's what the market's saying, anyways. I
Well,
think I
sir.
think they should stay high. I think they should stay higher for longer. We've been given the markets straight up drugs and heroin for the last 14 years with low interest rates. There's a lot of businesses that shouldn't be around that survive. But at the same time, like would if low interest rates didn't exist, would Uber have ever made it to profitability? Probably not. So there are some good things that came out of it. I got to refinance our student loans. That was pretty awesome.
Okay.
And a game changer. So millennials, despite having suffered through '08 and '09, if they did well for themselves, got to take advantage of low rates, got a nice sub 3 mortgage here. Heyo. Yeah, these are all flexes. But in all seriousness, uh,
That is the
yeah,
millennial bragging
yeah,
cocktail party
yeah,
conversation
yeah. That's
now.
that's
What's
the
your
joke. That's the
interest
joke.
rate?
Yeah, that's the joke right there. It's like, if you manage to become a homeowner, as a millennial, I guess you've made it. It's such a crazy thing. But yeah, that's my commentary on interest rates.
Awesome, Doug. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions here, and we're perfectly on time. I'll give you 30 seconds back. Thank you for filling up the entire time here. This was so much fun and extremely helpful for all the people watching live, all the people that are going to watch it in months to come here. So thanks again, Doug. We
Awesome.
really appreciate you coming.
Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I know I got a little spacey. It got very loud here in the downtown area. That kind of backfired on me. It was either this or the kids coming in and interrupting the call, and I chose this one. But it was such a pleasure, guys. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for listening to this rant. I hope there was something of value in here for you. Uh, stick again. Biggest thing I'd say is the long game you're playing. It's going to test you in all kinds of crazy ways, but stick with it. Uh, I
Awesome.
really do believe this is like one of the best careers that you can have. So
Totally.
keep going.
And if people want to follow and hear more from you, maybe what's the best place to find you?
At Doug Boneparth on any platform, and there's a link tree with all the links and everything you can need. Make it real easy. And if any of you would like to talk, my door is always open. Please know that. Um, wish you all the best of luck.
And I second that. Doug has been a mentor of mine, whether he knows it or not, for a few years now. So really appreciate you taking the time again, Doug. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks, Colin. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep. Bye.